You're listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studio. Man, we got the local, the state, the national covering down on all the issues. And, oh yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Welcome to the end of the week. It's been a weird week. It's been a short week. I mean, I feel like today is Tuesday, but it's Friday. So let's play some Friday sound effects. Hit it, man. Friday! Absolutely. Welcome to the end of the week. You're all the way to the Friday. We're going to get you all the way to go home time here on a Friday afternoon. And pushing the buttons, which includes the explosions on the board. JP, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good before the cold hits next week.
It's going to be cold.
Yeah, it's going to be really bad.
It's going to be real. I mean, it's only January, right?
I know. That's one of the my birthday's in 2 weeks, and that's what I hate about my birthday every year is it's so cold.
Yeah, there's like I think half the family's in January.
Yeah,
we got a bunch of them. But listen, we got a great show laid on for you. 3 o'clock today, Jeff Poor from 1819 News will be on the air with us talking about some political machinations. There's a news about Speaker of the House Mike Johnson. We'll tell you about that momentarily. And then there's a race for a mayor's office in Alabama that to me is going to be one of the highlights of the year. It's going to be the gift that keeps on giving. I almost can't wait, except at the same time, I don't want it. Anyway, we'll talk about that later in the show. Jeff Poor calling in at 3 o'clock, and then at 3:30 p.m., you know the deal. The man's like a savant on sports. So JP on sports at 3:30. You ready for that, man? All the way?
I'm always ready.
You're always ready. You can do that in your sleep.
Yeah.
JP on sports at 3:30 today, and then I still got a triple dipper just filled up with stuff. So hit it, man.
The Triple Dipper. 3 stories you've got to know.
That's right, the Triple Dipper, 3 stories, 3 themes, if you will, that you got to know as we run today's show. First out the gate, we're going to talk about key races in conjunction with that conversation with Jeff Poor. We'll talk about the race for Speaker of the House, which, by the way, just concluded. And we'll talk about the race for the mayor of Birmingham. Have you heard who's running? Oh, man, this is going to be something else. Folks in Birmingham, y'all need to get your act together. We'll talk about it. Number 1, Triple Dipper, key races. Number 2, tarnished medals, like you wear medals, like medals that are awarded, like medals for doing good things, except sometimes medals get given out like, participation trophies. We'll talk about that as part of my monologue in a moment, but also number 2 on the Triple Dipper, I'll fill you in on the details about Biden's tarnished medals. And then number 3, there's a lot going on right now with the situation with the terror attack in New Orleans, with the weirdness about what's brewing around the Tesla that exploded in Las Vegas. Another guy tried to leave an IED on a train in, I believe, Illinois. And now we're looking at a video just came out from the FBI about a pipe bomb from 4 years ago. And my number 3 dipper is, now you tell us? There's a reason for that, and I'll tell you all about it. Number 3 on the Triple Dipper. Now you tell us? That's what we're going to talk about. All right, let me jump on into the Right Side Way opening monologue, and I'll remind you guys that every single day, the Right Side Way monologue sponsored for you by attorney Stan McDonald, partner at the law firm of Wilmer & Lee. Stan McDonald, great guy. I know him personally. I think the world of him. Proud to have him as a sponsor of the Right Side Way monologue, and I'll tell you more about him here in a few minutes. So, I'll be honest, I'm going to go on a bit of a rant today. I mean, I got to get something off my chest, folks, because something happened yesterday, something that literally flew under the radar. No one saw it coming, at least I didn't. Something that represents, in my opinion, the height of cringe and partisanship and insult all rolled into one. Joe Biden fumbled around on stage and gave out participation trophies. You heard me. It happened. Did you know that Joe Biden held an awards ceremony at the White House yesterday? Well, nobody did. I mean, there was no major effort to promote the event. It was buried under real news about terrorism and elections and international events. But he did. Joe Biden held a ceremony to award the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Now, y'all, the Presidential Medal of Freedom is one of the highest awards that can be bestowed upon a civilian. It's founded by John F. Kennedy back in the 60s. Barack Obama, oh, by the way, he blew it out of the water. He gave out 118 of them during his tenure, just like slinging them out like candy. Donald Trump, he only awarded 24. And it should be selective. It should be special. Well, yesterday, Joe Biden handed out 20 in one day. Nobody does that. But it was who he gave it to that was the real story. So in what has to be the biggest slap in the face to over half the nation, Biden chose to hand the vaunted Presidential Medal of Freedom to none other than Liz Cheney. Liz Cheney and, wait for it, Benny Thompson. Former Congresswoman Liz Cheney and Congressman Benny Thompson, the architects and the presiding members of the January 6th Commission, for their defense of democracy, is what he said. This was the equivalent of a massive presidential participation trophy, and it was also a poke in the eye to the idea that America is somehow turning a page on partisanship. So much for trying to make things better and smoothing the transition, right? Look, I'm appalled, amazed, and somewhat confused as to how anyone thought this was a good idea. And I do not profess to know or understand what goes on in the minds of the interns that are actually running the White House and signing Joe's names to official documents. But I can bet that they were all raised on participation trophies. That's my thought. That epic fail that says that no one keeps score, everyone's a winner, post-game snack time is more important than learning how to win and lose. If the Biden administration were a college football coach, the locker room would be filled up with platitudes and aw shucks comments about how winning's not everything, but then whining to the press after the game about how no one gives the players enough credit for just showing up. Participation trophies. That's where we are? The president batches up a stack of 20 participation trophies and slings them out to the crowd like confetti. And now listen, I may sound like an old fogey, right? But there was a time when we taught kids that the best trophies in life come from hard work and dedication. They were taught every Saturday on Wide World of Sports that there's both the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. But they were also taught by parents who cared and teachers who knew and coaches who pushed and drill sergeants who yelled and bosses who required that life may in fact have setbacks, but that setbacks are not final. Setbacks are merely obstacles that have to be overcome. And truthfully, I don't mind if little kids get a medal for being on the team. I mean, I loved watching my kids play sports when they were just little bitty and kicking daisies in the outfield. I love seeing my grandson play little guy soccer and have no idea what the score is, but he knows his daddy told him he played hard, and that's his takeaway, and that's good. But there does come a time in life, even as a child, when they have to know that sometimes they will win and sometimes they will lose, and actions do have consequences, and hard work may be required to produce results. And the example that Joe Biden is giving right now to kids in America by handing out whole batches of presidential medals of freedom to people who questionably didn't deserve it, well, kids see that, and kids then lean on the mentality that we saw in yesterday's award ceremony. And the kids who grow up with that kind of example are the kind who would drop into the fetal position and seize up if they were told to storm the beaches at Normandy. We need people who know what it means to have the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. And giving away 20 presidential medals of freedom in one batch, 2 of which go to people that insulted half the nation and withheld evidence, is wrong. It's this mentality that allowed so much to happen in the past few years. So as BLM rioted and burned, and illegal immigrants got free housing, and Israel was chastised for defending itself against terrorism, the Biden administration made a mockery of true achievement. Free money for everything. No need to work. Government assistance for agenda-driven nonsense. Gold medals for people who suppressed evidence and lied about January 6th. I suspect that Biden will find a way to award the student protesters at Columbia University before he leaves office. You know, the ones who stared down their deans and defied the good order and discipline of academia. The ones who called out for their university to divest itself of anything related to Israel. Remember them? A bunch of kids so empowered that they could break out the windows of their school buildings, take over the classroom, pull down the American flag and put up a Palestinian flag, and threaten Jewish students with bodily harm, call for death to Israel, and then demand the school send them vegan food, and promise that they wouldn't get counted absent on the exams that they were skipping while they tore up the campus. There's only one explanation for what we saw on Columbia University and other campuses like that: a lifetime of participation trophies. You heard me. We saw what happens on campuses when a generation of kids grows into semi-maturity, having never learned that life can be hard and that not everyone's a winner. And you don't always get a trophy when you lose. And yes, there are consequences for bad behavior. Most of these everyone's a winner neophytes. They don't even know what they were protesting on their college campuses. Something about their school does like some business with like some country called Israel, like who's at war with these poor, misunderstood, oppressed people called, I don't know, like Pakistanis or something. And they wear cool scarves. And I think they're like in the Middle East, which is like somewhere near Africa or like something. But yeah, that group at Columbia, they actually folded up pretty quick when most of the protesters got hungry because they forgot to bring their juicy juice and gluten-free snackables. The New York Post pointed out the Red Army held out against the Nazis during the siege of Leningrad for years under severe famine, but the pro-Palestinian protesters at Columbia, they didn't make it to snack time. But I digress. Here's the deal. What happened on college campuses like Columbia, it was left unchallenged by the Biden administration. Why would that be? Nary a word as students disrupted and detained and demanded. As BLM burned whole city blocks, Kamala Harris helped raise money for their bail. When Antifa locked down a huge swath of downtown Portland and Seattle, Joe Biden had nothing to say. Consequences mean nothing to his administration unless it involves slapping the hand of government right across the face of anyone they deem to be on the right side of events. So if you're a conservative, you get no mercy, you get no quarter, and you surely get no medals. Unless, of course, you're Liz Cheney, who was willing to turn on her own party, her own principles, her own constituents. Liz Cheney, who assisted in withholding evidence from the January 6th Commission and tampered with witnesses while people went to jail, never knowing that she had exculpatory evidence at her disposal. And then she campaigned for Kamala Harris in a desperate effort for relevance in the wake of losing her own seat in Congress when her voters came back and kicked her to the curb. But in Biden world, all that deserves a medal. The same Presidential Medal of Freedom, by the way, that has been given over the years to people like Rosa Parks and Jimmy Doolittle and Bob Dole and Nelson Mandela. Yeah, Liz got her a fine participation trophy. Well, I hope that Liz and her participation trophy go home satisfied. And when MSNBC calls to offer her a job to become one of the commentators on one of their ill-fated shows with low ratings, maybe she'll hang her medal in the broadcast booth as a testament that if you really screw people over and you try to hose the ones who used to support you and you switch teams in mid-game, then you too can get an award from a president who doesn't even know what day it is. Presidential Medals of Freedom. In Biden land, those are just golden participation trophies. And that's a wrap for the Right Side Way. Well, I told you it'd be a rant. That's how I feel. The Biden administration just clearly showed over and over and over again that rewarding mediocrity and just showing up is what they'll do. And y'all, I'm just telling you, I don't mind little kids getting a medal for being on the team. But at some point, the leaders of this country have to show an example that says hard work, dedication, and overcoming obstacles. That's what gets medals. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. We are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just pulling pins on truth grenades. That's right. Bulletproof influence, I like to call it. That's where we are here at Rightside. Text lines are open, 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. Text it or call it. Same number for both. We'll jump on those here momentarily. I got to tell you guys, so you heard me say it a minute ago, the sponsor daily of the Rightside Way monologue is attorney Stan McDonald. So let me tell you about Stan, and I've known him for a bit, and Stan McDonald is like a warrior on things that we care about as Rightside Ruffians, but he's also a 30-year veteran in the practice of law here in North Alabama. Stan McDonald, partner at the law firm of Wilmer and Lee. I mean, he's represented his clients in literally thousands of real estate transactions over the years. He knows how to represent you in court, whether it be local, state, or federal. And what I always say is when Stan McDonald's on your side, you're going to have no greater friend, and your adversaries will have no greater foe. So if you need an attorney, Stan McDonald, partner at the law firm of Wilmer and Lee, I'm going to tell you how to reach him. You ready? I'm going to give you his phone number. Stan McDonald, phone number, 256-479-3020. That's Stan McDonald, 256-479-3020. And do me a favor, tell him you heard about it here on Rightside Radio. I got to do the thing now. Here we go. No representation made to quality legal service be performed with great quality legal service before other lawyers.
That was a good one.
That was actually really good.
Yeah.
I understood most of the words I said.
Most of them.
It's ridiculous. I'm gonna. You know what? I tell you what. For as long as we have to do this for Stan, I'm gonna gripe about having to do that. Because the idea that I'm gonna advertise a lawyer who I really don't think is any better than the other one down the street. Come on. Okay. Text lines. Let's see what we got here. Alan from Arab, by the way, checked in, and we just responded back to him. Alan, we appreciate it. He was one of our listeners on 101.1 out of Birmingham and says, I hope you guys will come back. And you know what? I don't know that we will, but we are working on other opportunities. So just stand by for that. And then we've got Scott from Athens texted in. He says, keep your eyes on the Sean Ryan show. Said apparently Leibelsberger, that's the Green Beret who died with the Tesla truck. You understand?
Yeah.
Emailed his show and is going to release the email with a special show today. I think okay, that's going to be interesting.
So he actually, he just released it like 30 minutes ago, and he also tweeted that him and his family will be, quote, disappearing for 3 days. And so I don't know what that's all about, but
him and his family, who are we talking about?
Like his immediate family, his wife and kids, or whatever.
So who emailed something to Sean Ryan?
The guy who blew up the Cybertruck allegedly emailed his show. I guess obviously before he did. I don't know how long before he did it, but yeah, he released it as part of a special show today. So
no kidding.
Yeah, but he said that him and his family will be quote hiding out. Don't know what that means for 3 days or disappearing, whatever. So it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I don't blame him.
Yeah, I don't either.
But okay, then we need to keep an eye on Sean Ryan's show because I want to hear what's said about it. And I want to know if he has the means of validating that what he got was real.
That's true too. Yeah.
David at Buc-ee's says, Phil, it shouldn't be a surprise the way Biden degraded the awards. Just look what he did with pardons. No doubt, brother. No doubt. What a great example. You are so correct. He handed out pardons and presidential medals of freedom like they were just, nothing. Just candy, just flipping it out to the crowd, like somebody slinging T-shirts to the crowd at a ball game. That's just unreal. Brian from Huntsville says the biggest problem with the Columbia vegan diet, vegans are more difficult to catch and cook than chickens and cows are. What? 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 I had to stop and pause there. I don't know why. Jeff from Indiana says, hey, Phil, it's like every other award given to people who don't deserve them. That just cheapens and makes the awards meaningless. For instance, he said, look what the Nobel Peace Prize is anymore. It's given to Yasser Arafat and President Obama. So virtually it's just the demeaning of the people who deserve the awards. I get it. That's my rant, brother. You're right. This is not the way the awards were intended. This is not what's supposed to. In fact, I remember when Barack Obama was in, he gave the Congressional Medal of Honor, or the Medal of Honor, to an entire unit from World War II. You don't do that. Anyway, more on this, more texts, and more stuff. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the northern half of the most beautiful state in the nation. This one I'm talking about, this one, y'all, the one I'm in, the one I love, Alabama. And I mean to say, this show goes like all the way down to Birmingham, over to Tuscaloosa, back to Gadsden, parts of Georgia, Tennessee, and even Mississippi all thrown in just for good measure. And oh, by the way, coming up in a few weeks, we go live in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And I got to find a whole new way to say all that. I'm going to have to find a new. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'll just figure out what to say and see what happens.
Your creative juices will flow. I promise.
Something will happen. I'll have a Red Bull and to see where it goes. But yeah, we're pretty excited about that. In case you hadn't heard, yes, we are expanding the radio footprint into another state, which is actually, because of the lay of the land, people don't realize sometimes how close Chattanooga is to the Georgia border. A lot of folks who are in Chattanooga actually live in Georgia or work in Georgia. Anyway, so we're going to be in places like Dalton, Georgia, and Somerville and others, and all up around the Rome area, and then certainly in Chattanooga, Tennessee, East Tennessee, down into northeast Alabama, and then, oh yes, of course, the signal out of Huntsville. We're pretty excited about it. So thank you all for your support, and we'll take it where it goes. All right, listen, I got to get a few more text messages before I jump. John from Huntsville checked in, and he says, Phil, spectacular monologue. Also, I want to let you know today is my 35th birthday, and I just got through celebrating at the Meteor Buffet, and I ate all kinds of good food that Jeff from Indiana loves to eat. By the way, JP, what football coach is going to get Duke's mayo dumped all over him tonight?
I love that bowl. I don't even know who's in that bowl off the top of my head. But have you seen that? They get a whole bucket of mayo, dunk it on the coach. It's pretty gross.
That's just like several levels of wrong.
I would almost not want to win the game, honestly.
No, and then someone's got to get the goop up off the field too.
Yeah.
And then people are stepping in it. That's just nasty.
Why
would they do that? But hey, I think we need to play some applause and all that for John's birthday. John from Huntsville. Thank you, John. Yeah. We're excited, man. Happy birthday to you. Blessings on you. May the Lord God just give you 35 or 50 or more. Just keep on going, brother. We appreciate you very much. Happy birthday. Steve from Tennessee checked in. He said, think where we'd be today if Liz Cheney had been reelected to this Congress. We'd have no speaker. That's a great point. Can you imagine?
I don't want to.
No. Why should we? It didn't happen.
No, exactly, yeah.
And then Thomas from Athens says, for your third bullet regarding January 6th and the bombs, Julie Kelly's been working to get her research into the public square for a long time with Dan Bongino's help. Okay, thanks, man. Appreciate it. Thomas, appreciate you. All right, listen, I got a lot of stuff to talk about, not the least of which is what just happened in D.C. So the first dipper, I called this Key Races. And coming up here, top of the hour, we'll get some commentary from our friend Jeff Poore from 1819 News, who's extremely politically savvy and very astute. And we'll get his thoughts on what just happened. But there's two races that I want to focus on. The first just went down and it's over with. So no fuss, no muss. Mike Johnson continues to be Speaker of the House. And I think that's good. And I am frustrated with some of the things that happened that made other people frustrated too. But I do not think this was a time to act out the frustration. I think this was a time that the American people desperately need to see a measure of consistency in their government. I really do. I think this is also a time when we have to be able to move forward expeditiously. From day one, when the inauguration takes place and Trump is sworn in, he goes back to the executive offices at the White House and starts signing things in the Oval and getting it done, and then sending his agenda over to Congress, and they start getting it done, and we're not sitting around pondering who can be the Speaker of the House. Now, do I think we need some changes? Oh, Lord God, yes, we do. But I am so glad to see that today we're not dealing with the drama that was on us last year. Now, last year we didn't have the Trump agenda ready to get rolling, all right? We didn't. It was not a thing. But man, Mike Johnson being in now is exactly what I think we needed for now. I hope that Mike Johnson has a chance to really get his teeth into the job with a majority that will work with him. I hope that he's going to have his teeth into the job in a way that conservatives love. I look forward to his street cred as a speaker being everything his street cred was as a congressman, just a rank and file congressman. I really believe that he has the opportunity right now to have a great legacy as Speaker of the House. But he's going to have to get some brass. He's going to have to straighten up his spine. He's going to have to stare down Hakeem Jeffries and those dead eyes that Hakeem Jeffries has. You know what I'm saying too, don't you?
It's true.
It's true.
His eyes never change.
He's got like soulless, like zombie eyes.
Yeah, he freaks me out. At least that aspect of him freaks me out.
Okay, so we both agree we think that he's a zombie or something. But anyway, so that race just happened, and I'll unpack that more for a minute. But there's another race that you guys got to know about. So the formerly largest city in the state of Alabama, Birmingham, now has some drama brewing in the race for mayor. Liberal Mayor Randall Woodfin, that's how I refer to him as, Liberal Mayor Randall Woodfin has competition in the form of Liberal State Representative Wandolyn Gavan. This, y'all, I can't even begin to describe to you how epic this is going to be. I mean, like for instance, she's already been calling him out, telling him in recent, the last couple of months, doing a press conference where she just basically said Mayor Woodfin is nothing but a little boy and a big job. Oh, listen, I've been in the State House as a senator when she was downstairs in the House. She and I got elected the same year in 2010. She's still there. That woman's a diva. I don't mean like a little bit. I mean like that woman's a diva. You never know what color her hair is going to be when she shows up. She's got, she's dressed to the nines. She's always all about it. And she's like, telling you what's what. Don't try and tell me. I saw her once down the floor of the House saying, I'm going to burn this place down. And if anybody else had said it, they wouldn't have gotten away with it. But she can go to the microphone and say whatever she wants to say with no fear of repercussions. And now, there have been a couple of times lately when I've agreed with her. She's calling for the city of Birmingham to be made safer. I totally agree with that. The question is, what does that mean? So we'll unpack some of the things that she stands for. And listen, if you have friends that are voters, friends or family that are voters in Birmingham, tell them we need them to get their act together. Because if the best they can do is put up Randall Woodfin and Wandolyn Gavan, my God, there's just like, so think about this. In the last 10 years, the city of Birmingham went from being the largest municipality in the state to the third largest, almost the fourth, just like cascading down. People are exiting there like they leave California. I mean, like the U-Haul trucks coming out of Jefferson County are epic. But it's more than that. The economy has gone down. It's not just the population. The economy has gone down. The level of safety has gone down. Crime rate has gone up. All on Randall Woodfin's watch. And yet he's going to run for a third term. And they keep putting him in. And the best they could do to put up competition is Wandolyn Gavan? Oh my gosh, what are you laughing about over there?
I think the top 5, at least, most entertaining periods of my life was when I ran Dale's show, the 20-minute shouting fest between her and Dale. That may be one of the most entertaining things I've ever experienced. So,
didn't you have to actually turn her down once in a while to get her to get Dale a word in?
Oh, yeah, I had to mute her for Dale to get a word in.
Which is saying something.
Yeah, that is saying something.
If Dale Jackson can't get a word in and you're having to mute the caller, something's up.
But I have a question. I feel like I should know this. Do mayors, do they have a primary, or is it just like one general election?
No, mayors are allegedly apolitical.
Okay.
So they run as a batch. And
so that's what I initially thought of. Surely they can get a Republican person to go up against it, but then I didn't know if they was set up that way.
No, but you make a great point. So I've said this multiple times, and even on the show, as a matter of fact, there is no reason why they can't declare what party they are. They just don't run on a party ticket for mayor.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why that is the way it is, but there is no reason in the world why someone can't say, hey, I'm a conservative Republican. I was endorsed by Trump. I'm a Club for Growth Foundation member. You know, I'm a Tea Party endorsed guy. And I'm running for mayor. There's no reason why they can't do that.
I'm sure somebody will, but I don't know what their chances would be in Birmingham. So I don't know if anybody of quality would be willing to waste the money to run, because I don't think they stand a chance against Woodfin or Wanderlin for that matter.
Here's an interesting dynamic, though. Let's think about this. Let's me and you postulate for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
This is the year that we saw the MAGA agenda flip areas that had never been red, or at least not in decades. We saw the Teamsters come out. We saw places like Michigan and others that like the rank and file union is like saying, we're for Trump. We saw things happen, like 10 counties in California flipped red. My thing is, maybe now more than ever, there's an opportunity.
Sure. And maybe if that were the case, the margin would be smaller than normal. I don't know. My hopes aren't up that high that Birmingham's there yet.
Yeah. And I look at it and think, I mean, it used to be the magic city, and in some ways it's the tragic city right now. Mm-hmm. And I did a lot of, and Charlene always says, okay, every time you mention Birmingham, you mentioned you grew up in a lot. I did. So all my grandparents and cousins are from there. I ran around barefoot in Old West Birmingham and Inslee and Wylam and out towards Pleasant Grove and all those areas. And I love Birmingham. And yet Birmingham's being run into the ground. Birmingham is a declining municipality right now simply because there are liberal policies in place that are not being voted out. And they're going to keep putting the same people back in and wondering why things are what they are. And that's got to change. It's got to change. All right, we'll talk about that and more coming up after the break. Let's take a break right now, brother. We'll do that. We'll come right back, and then we'll jump on some issues related to Mike Johnson being Speaker of the House again, and then Wandelin Gavan. Y'all, listen, if you haven't seen some of the articles about her, I encourage you to look them up. Oh, it's going to be quite the mayor's race. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Just making common sense like a superpower. All right, so we're back on right now talking about key races is the name of this dipper. Key races. Two key races I wanted to focus on. One has already occurred. Mike Johnson has just been reelected like in the last half hour as the Speaker of the House of Representatives. I think that's good. Me personally, I do. I think it's good. I am, like many of you, I am frustrated with the way that whole budget process spending spree went down most recently. But I really do believe that this is a time when we do not need drama. We need action. We need things moving forward. And the only way to do that is to get all the people. It's like having the team on the field, right? If the whole team's not on the field ready to go when the ball's snapped, what do? You're short. So in this case, I think it's the right thing to do. And now, if he doesn't start moving things in an appropriate direction, he won't stay speaker. Let's just put it that way. But the Trump agenda can't get started if we don't have the House and the Senate in place, ready to roll. And the only way to do that was to get through this leadership vote. So we do know, by the way, that there were 3 holdouts who did not give him their vote at first. But 2 of them came back around and switched their vote. Now, Thomas Massey from Kentucky, I believe he is. Is Thomas Massey from Kentucky?
Yeah.
Yeah, Thomas Massey from Kentucky, extremely conservative. I believe he's a Freedom Caucus guy.
Big libertarian.
Yeah, and a major libertarian. He's also a spending hawk. I mean, and I get it. I agree with him. Anyway, Thomas Massey just held his vote and did not vote for him. Get this. Speaker Johnson won with 218 votes. Hakeem Jeffries had 215. That's how close this is. Can you imagine if there had been a slip up in the votes and suddenly someone, didn't show up and the vote count was low, and next thing you know, Hakeem Jeffries comes out on top during a Republican majority? That's how close we are. All right, so that being said, Mike Johnson's in. Who were the 2 that switched their vote? You said you knew?
Ralph Norman and Keith Self. Ralph Norman
Yeah.
of South Carolina, Keith Self of Texas.
Yeah.
Eventually ended up switching, which if you're gonna switch eventually, why'd you not just vote for him in the first place? Because that means that they realized they wanted Johnson in, but they didn't want to vote for him in the first place for some reason. Which is just like, just vote for him. I don't get that.
I saw that kind of thing all the time on the floor of the Alabama Senate. They call them vote counters.
Yeah.
They're counting the votes. They cast their initial vote. Either that or they hold their vote, because as long as the roll hadn't been concluded yet, as soon as the clerk concluded the roll, and I was the last one in line, so everybody knew if they heard Williams' name, they better get their vote in before I cast my vote. But they would be counting the votes, and you could see them doing little tallies on their sheets. Oh, man. Oh, God, it's going to pass. And at that point, they would decide, all right, I might as well join them.
Yeah.
Or they would look at it and go, well, you know what? I guess my no vote won't hurt anything, so I'll go ahead and say no. That way I can please some people and not hurt the vote. I mean, that kind of crap just happened all the time. But the other ones were the ones who were the vote counter switchers. I voted no. Oh, wait. Oh, which way the vote's going? Oh, he's got enough? Oh, man. Okay, I don't want to be on the losing side. All right, I changed my vote to a no, to a yes.
I didn't even know you could change your vote after you
yeah.
casted it.
Yeah. And what was crazy, too, is you had people who didn't like, this is funny, but you had people who didn't like, I mean, I was in the back of the room and I always yell, I mean, the whole world could hear me. No. And, but you had people who didn't like their voice to be heard in case they wanted to change it. And so the thing was, they would just touch their eye. That meant I. They'd go like they're at an auction.
Yeah.
And they would eye, or they would kind of do the thing under their chin, like no. Like, what? Just
Own it.
Own your vote, man. All right, so Speaker Mike Johnson is back in, and I think that's a good thing. Here's the other thing. Mayor of Birmingham. Holy cow. So Representative Wandalyn Gavan, if you don't know her, I challenge you to look her up. Wandalyn, spell it Juandalynn, Wandalyn Gavan from Birmingham. She's a Democrat representative in the state house. She announced, I think yesterday, that she is running as a candidate for Birmingham mayor. In her words, it's time for a change. It's unacceptable the conditions that are the way they are. She made the announcement saying she's going to run her campaign on 3 Ps: people, protection, and progress. All right. She said, I was called to run. There's a calling on me to run and to be a voice for those who cannot be voices for themselves. The city of Birmingham is filthy, she said. trash, potholes, no resurfaced streets, and the crime is so beyond anyone's belief it's higher than it was in 1933. Well, she's right on all that.
Woodfin's so bad he makes Wandeling Gavan sound red-pilled. That's my takeaway from that.
Woodfin is so bad, it makes
Wandeling Gavan sound red-pilled.
like she's been red-pilled.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there are some quotes in this article from Alabama Daily News that I'm looking at. Like, we have an increase in crime. Jefferson County Coroner says there have been 104 homicides from January through September of this past year. We've got, and we didn't even finish out the year. We were beating records. You've got any number of things that are going on that are frustrating the local citizenry, not the least of which is the fact that the business climate just stinks. Now, some of that can be attributed to the national economy, but not all of it. I mean, when you got businesses flooding out of municipal limits of Birmingham to go set up outside the limits, well, then what does that tell you? Inside the limits is a problem. So you got gang violence, you've got homicide rates that are super high, you've got property theft and property crimes that are high, you've got a business climate that is difficult, you've got a declining population, and you've got aging infrastructure. There's wonderful things about Birmingham. There are. And it's also at a key location. It's a crossroads of major routes across southeast Alabama. And it's waning for no other reason than lack of good leadership. But is Wandeling Gavan the answer? I'm going to tell you a short answer is just no. I'll tell you more about that in a minute. Coming up, Jeff Poore going to dial in and give us his thoughts on both these races. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back.
You're listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio, Phil Williams, here live in the Rightside studios, man. We got the local, the state, the national, covering down on all the issues. And, oh, yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to hour number 2 on a Friday that feels like a Tuesday because nobody knows what day of the week this really is. But anyway, hey, listen, we're going to the phones right now, bringing in Jeff Poor, our friend from FM Talk 1065, host of the Jeff Poor Show down yonder in Mobile, but he's also the executive editor, or excuse me, editor-in-chief for 1819 News. Hey, Jeff Poor, how you doing, man?
Doing well. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Thank you. By the way, are you doing your show live yet? Have you gone back on the air?
Yeah, we've been, we only took New Year's Eve and day and Christmas Eve and day off.
Thank you. Well, you and I are the only two people in the world apparently doing live radio like that because I keep getting people telling me that.
There's more, Senator. I filled in for other hosts in Birmingham these last few days, too. One day I had 7 hours of radio, so, yeah.
That's not healthy, brother, just so you know. Hey, listen, I got to get your feedback on something. You guys at 1819 have been writing about it, and I've got 2 stories. Let's take the first one that already occurred. Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, just got reelected. He actually wound up making it in the first vote cycle. They didn't have to go through more than one. Your thoughts on this? How do you feel about it?
I don't think it was totally unexpected, and it was more about not screwing up Trump's win this time. I mean, I get it in the last iterations of the speaker's race with Johnson and McCarthy. I mean, they had to settle some scores and all of that. But on this one, it just feels to me like they weren't going to let prolonged speaker's race kind of give the media more ammunition.
Well, and I think you're right. I think that's healthy. I mean, Trump was obviously pushing for it, and I'm sure he's making phone calls in the background. Only one guy actually held out, Thomas Massey, and I saw that Byron York just moments ago texted out, only one person in all of Congress was willing to resist the Trump agenda, and that was Thomas Massey. But is that a plus right now? I'm not sure I don't think this was the time, to be honest.
Well, you always get the Ron Paul guy, right? There's always going to be one guy who could do no wrong in the eyes of his constituents, and he's got nothing to worry about. He's a folk hero. He's going to be fine. But there wasn't going to be a whole bunch of them this time. You aren't going to have a whole wagon of holdouts. Look, it's funny when Democrats will be in this spot, I think, someday, and they'll have to settle their scores. But they work better together. I tell you this, I'm a little surprised by how all the Democrats made it to D.C. I was talking to Jerry Carl, who's no longer a congressman,
right?
But he was like, well, look, Pelosi was in the hospital. You got one member in Arizona who's getting treated for cancer. They may have more votes that they can play with here than the Republicans are letting on, but it turned out not to be the case at all.
Yeah. I mean, I looked at the vote count. So he wins, Speaker Johnson, with a Republican slim majority, wins 218 to 215. I mean, Hakeem Jeffries is that close in terms of the vote count. That's amazing.
Well, it didn't help with Trump picking, Stefanik and well, there were a bunch, but I guess they haven't resigned their seat yet. Yeah, necessarily to go into the Trump administration, but they had to move fast. It wasn't going to be like one of these 2-week-long kind of deals, I think.
Yeah, I totally agree. All right, well let's come back home here to the magic city of Birmingham, Alabama. You guys have been writing about this. Colorful character, and we've got them. Every state's got them. Colorful character in state politics is State Representative Wandling Gavan. I have been in the legislature and watched her threaten to burn the house down and just be herself. And now she's going to run for mayor against liberal Mayor Randall Woodfin. Is this going to be the year of the sound bites out of the Birmingham mayor's race?
I don't know. They're always kind of kooky, right? William Bell and I've never been super geeked up about a Birmingham mayoral race. It's sort of like a race to the bottom, but I would fit maybe in trouble here. I mean, they got some crime problems, and he seems to. I mean, he's riding the gentrification train. How is that going to sell overall? I don't know that Wanda Gavan is necessarily going to be the candidate. She's just kind of more of an interesting phenomenon, of anything. But I do think somebody could make a run, have a puncher's shot at beating him.
Well, we were talking here in the studio earlier, and that's a blue area for the state of Alabama, but they don't run technically on a party ticket. But yet, there's nothing wrong with saying I'm a Democrat or I'm a Republican, or at least talking about your policies. But is this the year that someone could come in, much like Trump has begun flipping areas that had been blue to red? Is this the year when someone could come in with a municipal agenda that is more conservative and actually prevail? What do you think?
Maybe if you have the right candidate. I mean, it's based on race, and you need to find I don't know, maybe a moderate center left guy to run. I could see it. The trick would be like when he ran in New York City, Eric Adams, coming out of the De Blasio days, who was like, well, De Blasio was like a socialist out of the Soviet Union. And Eric Adams kind of ran on being tough on crime. Now, he never really fully lived up to that expectation. But maybe that's what we're looking at here. I don't think you're going to find somebody that's going to be like, oh, we need to cut the size of government and we need to quit doing all this goofy stuff uptown with all the subsidies or whatever it is. I don't think you're ever going to get that, or more world games, please. But I do think you could get somebody to say, hey, enough of this, like, Black Lives Matterification of our law enforcement. We need to tighten it up here because Birmingham's not a safe place to be.
All right, so let me ask you this. The race, I mean, Wanda Gavan is a big personality. She's got a diva personality. You never know what color hair she's going to have when she shows up. She, the giant glasses and the bright lipstick and the fancy dresses. And she's also, though, one who is not afraid to sling an insult, if you will. Like one of the stories you guys wrote in September was her calling out Woodfin on crime and saying, you're a little boy in a big job. Is he able to mix it up with someone who is that boisterous? Or is he going to be the guy who is trying to stay even keeled and yet be liberal at the same time? What are your thoughts?
He may be able to mix it up with her. He already has responded to her some on the big one was that 5 Point South shooting, remember?
Yeah.
And I mean, it just mishandled, and he really made some public relations errors, and so he'll mix it up with her. He already has on social media. He's not a bad politician. He's just horrible at being mayor. But he's not a bad politician. I don't know. It's hard for me to, because we've never seen her with a primary challenge or something like that either. And she seems to do pretty well. But I mean, keep in mind her district goes way outside the city limits. What Brookside up there, where they had the problems with the speeding tickets and all of that. Can she carry enough of Birmingham to at least make a runoff?
And where do you know where she lives in Birmingham? I don't even know. Do you know?
I used to, somewhere near Birmingham Southern, I believe.
Okay.
In that neighborhood. I know there's a lot of neighborhoods right around there, but that Legion Field sort of part of Birmingham.
Yeah, that's right. In fact, she's a Miles College graduate, if I'm not mistaken. Well, I mean, this is going to be interesting, man. But I'll be honest with you, I look at it and think, and of course, there's the whole thing about party politics. But at the very least, I wonder, can the business community, can the conservative community, can even the Republican Party recruit a candidate that comes in, and can they do that? Does it have to have skin color attached? I mean, do you have to find a black Republican, so to speak, to make this work?
Well, what if you had like an Arthur Davis or a guy like that? He's not necessarily, he has a D next to his name, but if you remember when Arthur Davis ran in that congressional district, he was before Terry Sewell.
Yep.
He beat Earl Hilliard, who was going to Libya and hanging out with Gaddafi. But based on that, I mean, you had a lot of people in the pro-Israel community rally behind Arthur Davis, raise a bunch of money for him,
Yep.
and he was congressman for a while. They didn't do that great when he ran for governor, but what if you had a candidate like that? Because you look at the business community, they make big on Birmingham. I mean, they built that overpass between Red Mountain Expressway 65, expecting big things, expecting a revitalization, expecting the place for the business community there to keep its headquarters, not be ran out to Hoover or Inverness or some other part of Birmingham.
Yeah.
So, you kind of look at it and you got to think, why wouldn't they try to find somebody who would instill a little more confidence, especially in the public safety realm?
I think they have to. I mean, I think that we're going to continue to see the decline of Birmingham, going from being the biggest city in the state to it's soon going to be the fourth in the state, if not fifth, if they keep on the trajectory they're on right now. And a lot of that's happened in the last decade, especially. But I don't know, man.
Well,
More to come.
Senator, real quick, I mean,
Yeah.
it's just been their losses have been the suburbs as gained. It's not as if Birmingham is losing people and they're moving to Montgomery or Huntsville. They're moving to Shelby County or they're moving to the over the mountain suburbs.
Yep, I totally agree. And but they're also losing opportunities. I mean, the things that come to the state of Alabama don't look at Birmingham. Not right now. They don't.
Watch this real quick. They the legislature this last session did these opportunities districts where they have some kind of like like immunity or whatever where they can be self-governing. Watch and see if those go inside of Birmingham or inside another municipality to the south of Birmingham.
Well, more to come on it, but I suspect you guys at 1819 News will be covering that race.
Yeah, well, if there is a race now, we'll see.
Okay.
Those mayoral races tend to be pretty crowded.
Yep, more to come on it, brother. Hey, appreciate you, man. Happy New Year to you, and we'll talk again soon.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me
All right,
on.
see you. All right, we're taking a break right now. That was Jeff Poor from 1819 News. You can find them at 1819news.com. Also, the host of his own show, The Jeff Poor Show, on FM Talk 106.5 down yonder in Mobile. In the meantime, we're taking a break. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just laying it out there with bulletproof influence. Thank you very much. Hey, finishing up this section about the key races. So yeah, Speaker Mike Johnson, still Speaker Mike Johnson. He just was sworn in as the leader of Congress, and we can move the agenda through. You know, we're going to seat the new Senate, and then Trump gets sworn in, and then at that point, we got all three branches. And I'm telling you right now, don't waste it. Don't waste it. Get her done. Now, let's go back to this mayor's race in Birmingham, though. I want to make sure you understand. So as we look at liberal Mayor Randall Woodfin having competition from Wandel and Gavan, let's take a look at who she is real quick. So just so you know, she has been out there calling for gun control. She is a gun control advocate. She is of the mind that the streets are safer if you can limit law-abiding citizens' access to firearms. She's also been all about the bump stock bans and things like that have no real effect on crime whatsoever. And then she even had I got a story here from earlier this year from Yellowhammer News. State Representative Wandel Gavan proposes a bill in the state legislature requiring fathers to either pay for the abortions or get a vasectomy. That's who she is. That's who wants to be mayor of one of the largest cities in our state. Yep. So yeah, she basically says, this is her quote. You ready? She said, in recent years, this is her talking, in recent years, the legislature has passed laws restricting reproduction rights in the state, and the penalties have been imposed only on women. It's time for that to change. Last time I checked a biology textbook, it takes a woman and a man to make a baby. Men in Alabama need to be held to the same level of responsibility as women. So yeah, her proposal was, if a woman wants a abortion, then the man has to pay for it. So baby daddy's got to pay for it, or baby daddy has to get snipped. That's her solution. As a member of the Alabama legislature, classic example that anyone can get elected to office at some point. If all you do is put your name on the ballot, ain't no telling what you can do when you get there. Yeah, buddy. Well, just so you know, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in 1927 that forced sterilization is a violation of due process of the 14th Amendment. So there's that. Just saying. And she actually, by the way, has a law degree from Miles College. So, you know, I hate for her to actually apply the law as a lawyer to...
Yeah, she's a lawyer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The zealous...
So anybody can be a lawyer or pass the bar.
Hang on a second. No representation is made the quality of legal services be performed is greater than the quality of legal services performed by other lawyers unless it's Wandel and Gavan. Yeah, so bottom line is that's who wants to be mayor. Let me get a few text messages before we go into the break. And don't forget, coming up bottom of the hour, we'll come back from the break and jump on into some JP on sports. All right, so hey, David from Huntsville checking in says, where'd he go? He said, I love Speaker Micah Johnson won the vote. He also says if either she, meaning Gavan, or Woodfin are elected Birmingham mayor, Birmingham will continue to burn and continue to drag down the state. There you go. TL from Huntsville says, Happy New Year, Phil. With the news that Mayor Randall Woodfin has competition with State Rep Wandel Gavan, I'd like to say, quote, get your popcorn ready and get ready to watch the fun. But instead, he said, I'm concerned about the cringe moments that could put Alabama in national news. I want Alabama to be known nationally for better reasons. Totally get you. Totally right. John from Boundsboro says, I heard her debate Dale Jackson on the show. Was it a debate? Was it really a debate?
It was a shouting match.
It was a shouting match.
And he also called it a lateral move from Woodfin to Gavan.
He did say that. That would be a lateral move. Kenny from Huntsville says, hey, Phil, the last couple of times I went to downtown Birmingham, the only growth I saw was 4-foot weeds, graffiti, and terrible roads, and an overall feeling of dread. You just were not safe anywhere.
Yeah.
Brian from Decatur says, the complete inability of the Republican Party to operate in congruence with each other is one of the reasons I call myself a conservative and not a Republican. I totally agree. Conservative first, Republican second. There you go. Jeff P. from Arab says, I would have to disagree with Jeff Poor on the fact that Democrats work better together. They're just all meat puppets doing what the hand makes them do. Meat puppets. Nice. He says, great show so far. Thanks, Jeff P. And then John from Huntsville says, JP, I got a basketball question for you. And I'm going to let you read that and tell him the answer as you see fit.
Yeah, answer and JP on Sports.
Oh, JP on Sports coming up. All right, listen, plenty more stuff where that came from. And if we get a chance, we got more topics. I mean, the whole thing about tarnished metals. Did you hear my monologue earlier? Presidential Medal of Freedom. 20 of them slung out yesterday like graffiti, one of which went to Liz Cheney. Oh, yeah. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the northern half of the most beautiful state in the nation, Alabama, y'all. Alabama, and I mean to say this show goes like all the way down to Birmingham and from Tuscaloosa back over to Gadsden, parts of Georgia, Tennessee, even Mississippi thrown in, all just for good measure. And oh, by the way, about to get bigger. We're about to branch out. Coming up here in a couple of weeks, we go live on WGOW out of Chattanooga, and we're pretty excited about it. So, you just got the battle handoff with the engineer from them this morning and gave them the technology to link us in, correct?
Yep, we are tracking for the 13th. So
sweet.
Excited for that.
All right, well, good deal. All right, listen, here's what we're going to do. We do this thing on Fridays we call JP on Sports. So if you don't know, JP has his own radio show on Saturday mornings. Does a great job on the UMP out of Huntsville called Off the Bench. And JP on Sports is a Friday segment we do because, I mean, the guy's sitting here, he knows more about sports than I've ever dreamed of. And I'm like 3 times his age. Actually, I'm almost 3 times your age. It's dawned on me. Anyway, there's that. But we call it JP on Sports, and we do it in 2 rounds. First round is called the 3 and Out. The second round is called the 2-minute warnings. So let's just hit some sound effects for JP on Sports. JP on Sports. All right, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, dude, 3 and Out. Give us the top 3 stories in sports right now as you see it. Go.
So the college football playoff, as everybody knows, has been underway. The first round kind of stunk, but the second round was much better. I think it was much better, at least. Besides the Oregon-Ohio State game, which was a blowout, every other game was pretty good. I thought the Penn State-Boise State game was pretty competitive till at the end Penn State kind of pulled away. But then Texas-Arizona State was one of the best games I've ever seen. Arizona State made one of the greatest comebacks I've ever seen and ended up losing in overtime, but still a great game. But now we got the quarterfinal or the semifinal matchups. First off, between Notre Dame and Penn State. They'll be playing on Thursday this upcoming week. I think this is going to be a very evenly matched game. I'm actually curious how this one will turn out. Notre Dame beat Georgia last night pretty handedly. Even with Georgia's backup quarterback playing, I think whatever the quarterback played for Georgia would have ended up losing that game. Notre Dame just manhandled him in all assets of the game. They manhandled them there. So I think Notre Dame is playing great football, firing on all cylinders. Penn State also is playing really great football, even though some people are talking how they've had the easiest path so far in the playoffs. They had SMU and then Boise State. So this will be the best competition they've faced by far. But I'm interested to see the quarterback play because Riley Leonard has been playing some, dare I say, Jeremiah Smith for Ohio State's up there, but he's playing some of the best football in the whole playoffs right now. But then Drew Aller has also been playing really well. Nick Singleton for Penn State, the running back's been playing really well. Both defenses have been playing pretty much perfect. So this is going to be a pretty even matchup between the Fighting Irish and the Nittany Lions. This is sort of a 2 blue bloods almost that haven't been in the mix in a while that are in the semifinals for the playoffs. So it's kind of fun, refreshing of new teams, but also historical programs, traditional programs. So I'm excited to see that one.
It feels like a classic matchup. I mean, I'm picturing like Joe Paterno and Newt Rockne. I mean, this is what it feels like. Rudy.
Yeah, it's fun to see them both back in the mix. So one of them will be going on to play for the national championship too, which is fun.
Now wait just a second.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a family member that plays for Penn State.
I do. I have a cousin who's on Penn State's team, special teams player, walk on up there. So it would be pretty cool if they made the national championship. He'll be part of that. But yeah, maybe a little biased towards that way.
Just a tad. As long as your Alabama team is not in, heck, why not root for family, right?
Yeah, my grandfather was massive Penn State fan too. So that whole side of the family is big Nittany Lion fans.
Now, what would have happened though around the house if your cousin was on the field, Penn State against Alabama? What would you do?
I got to root for Alabama on that one. Come on now.
All right, that's imagination. All right, that's number one. That felt like 3-1, but go ahead. What you got?
So next we got the Ohio State-Texas game, like I mentioned. I think Ohio State, they're my pick to win it all right now. They have the best roster in college football. I mean, when you spend $20 million, you better have the best roster in college football. But they had that close loss to Oregon in the regular season, and then they lost to Michigan. It's almost like people forgot how good their roster is, and they've played up to the town of their roster this playoffs so far. They just manhandled Oregon last game, and they destroyed Tennessee too. And look, I don't see anybody beating Ohio State right now. Texas just had a close game against Arizona State, which at first in the first half looked like a big talent gap, but then Arizona State made a big comeback. I wouldn't be surprised if Ohio State wins this one handedly, too, to be honest with you. I think Jeremiah Smith, the freshman receiver for Ohio State, I think is probably the best player right now in the playoffs. At least he's playing like it. Will Howard for Ohio State's played perfect. The game plan for Ohio State's offense has been perfect, and you wonder where was that in the Michigan game, but at least they're playing like it right now. So, yeah, I think this one will be a little bit less of a close game than the Notre Dame-Penn State game just because of how good Ohio State's playing right now. And no SEC. I'm not one of those guys that roots for SEC because all the SEC teams root against Alabama anyways. So I would be perfectly fine seeing Ohio State beat Texas in this game.
Okay, so look, I realized you didn't make a prediction a minute ago. So first of all, is there a prediction on Notre Dame, Penn State?
I'm leaning Penn State right now because I think they've got more athletes all across the board, but it will be close.
All right, and your prediction then for Texas and Ohio State? Ohio State.
I think it'll be pretty it may be a little closer than Oregon-Ohio State, but I think Ohio State will win that one pretty handedly too.
Dang, okay. All right, there it is. All right, that's 2. What's your third?
So apparently there was this bowl game. I've already forgotten about it, but Alabama apparently played a bowl game against Michigan.
What, Reliaquist?
The Reliaquist Bowl down in Tampa, where it was a fitting end of the season for Alabama of awful offense play with great defensive play, but the offense just failed the defense, and particularly schizophrenic quarterback play, I think is the best way to put it. Jalen Milroe looked so great at some points in the season, and he'll look so bad during other points of the season. So I think that was a fitting way to end the season. But we got a very exciting upcoming Alabama football season. I think Alabama's got Keelan Russell coming in, who was the Gatorade Player of the Year. I think he could be Bryce Young level good for Alabama. They also have Ty Simpson coming back, who was the backup quarterback. I think he would fit great in the system. Alabama also has Ryan Williams returning. All that to say, I think Kalen DeBoer is the guy. I've seen some people saying that he needs to be pushed out the door because they went 9-4. I think the fact that he went 9-4 with a team that wasn't built for his scheme is very impressive. So I think give Kalen DeBoer some time to build a team that he wants to build around his scheme, and Alabama's going to be perfectly fine going forward. But yeah, that loss to Michigan was it was fitting. It was a fitting way to end the season for Alabama. I'll just say that.
And Jalen Milroe just entered the draft.
Yeah, right? We'll be talking about that in a 2-minute warning too. Yeah, he entered the NFL draft. Which, all that being said, of how he played sort of schizophrenic almost and extremely inconsistent, he's going to be a first-round pick in the NFL draft with this quarterback class. So, Alabama fans, some of them may be surprised to hear that, but some people are going to fall in love with his athleticism. Some NFL front office is going to see how fast he runs, and they're going to fall in love with him. So he'll be a first-round pick for sure.
Okay, so I tell you what, since we got an extra couple of minutes here, unless you had more on that topic, I want to segue off that. You just said Kalen DeBoer, you think he's the man. Mm-hmm. Give him a chance now to build his own, recruiting classes and bring him in for his own scheme. I get it. Let's shift our view to the east. Mm-hmm. Auburn. Mm-hmm. Hugh Freeze, does he have to do it this next season or he's out?
This is his do or die year for sure. But I mean, he's got Jackson Arnold coming in. Apparently, they paid $3 million for him. But they also have Deuce Knight coming in out of high school, who is really, really. He was committed to Notre Dame, and Auburn flipped him. I think he threw for 52 touchdowns in a 10-game season in high school. So he's a stud quarterback. So Auburn has no reason to struggle in the quarterback play. They also have Cam Coleman coming back, Perry Thompson, both were highly touted receivers out of the state. They got 8 of the top 10 recruits out of high school in the state of Alabama coming to them next year too. So all that to be said, yeah, Hugh Freeze has no excuse to not be well, to play very well next year. It's do or die for him this upcoming season. I think Auburn gave him a way out with, okay, we think the quarterback play is awful. We'll give you a pass, but there's no pass this upcoming year. The front office, or I call it the front office, is really what it is. The board, aka the front office, ponied up money to go get some players. So, yeah, they're going to be upset if the results don't translate on the field with their contributions for players.
Let me ask you this: with 1 minute for the break, what are the smaller programs that are the most exciting for football in the state of Alabama? So Auburn, Alabama, we always hear about.
Yep.
But there's still UAB, JSU, UNA, USA, Troy. What do you think is the most exciting of what I would call the next tier programs in the state?
South Alabama. They posted this poking fun. They were the only state of Alabama team to win a bowl game this year.
Oh, God,
South
really?
Alabama was, yeah.
My alma mater, by the way.
Yeah. So they got a quarterback, Gio Lopez. I think Lopez is his last name. He went to James Clemens High School. He's very, very good for them. I don't know what year he is off the top of my head, but South Alabama, I would say right now, is the most exciting lower tier team. But also JSU just made obviously they have a coaching change. I would have said JSU. Rich Rod has left. We'll see how this interim coach does for JSU. But also they made a popular hire, or at least it's made the rounds of. They hired Vinny Sinceri, the old safety from Alabama, to be their defensive coordinator. So a popular name there. So we'll see if JSU can rebound after losing Rich Rod. But yeah, I think that there's a lot of good. I would have said UAB. Trent Dilfer is on the hot seat right now, I think, for UAB. Unfortunately, I really liked that hire at first, but it's not translating out. UAB, I think, had 4 wins this year, so we'll see if they make the coaching change from Dilfer. But right now, I would say South Alabama look mighty, mighty good.
All right, man. Listen, that's round 1 of JP on Sports, the 3 and out, which turned into a 5 and out. But we'll come right back and do the 2-minute warnings, where he can do anything in the world of sports 2 minutes at a time with a timer and a buzzer going. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Making common sense like a superpower. All right, so we're going back to round 2 now of JP on Sports. I will tell you that we just had something happen in the studio. I don't know how to explain it, but the buzzer has broken. What'd you do to the buzzer? You broke the buzzer.
I have no idea what's happening. It looks like we're having camera issues. That's a whole.
So camera 2?
Well, you're on. I don't know if we're going to get a side by side here, but
wow.
Nonetheless, okay, at least the mics work.
Okay, the mics are working. We're still on the air. Camera's working. Although I did just see it jiggle up on the screen. That's kind of weird.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I'll be your buzzer.
Okay.
Let's do a test run. There you go. How about that? All right. 2-minute warnings. You get 2 minutes on any topic. Sports. Ready? Go.
All right. Well, first, I know I got a question earlier about college basketball and the SEC. Fun fact: the top 16 hardest remaining schedules are the entire SEC conference in college basketball. So if that should tell you how packed and stacked the SEC is this year. But that includes Alabama and Auburn, who are sitting at the top. SEC play starts this upcoming week. We will see Alabama, who is playing Oklahoma this Saturday in Tuscaloosa. Oklahoma is the 12th ranked team in the country. Alabama's 5. So this is Alabama's first in-conference test, but Auburn plays Texas at Texas on Tuesday of this upcoming week.
And Auburn is number
2 right now. They are 12-1. They a lot of people think they should be the number 1 ranked team in the country right now.
Well, now.
They have Janai Broome right now is the front runner for the Wooden Award for the best player in college basketball. He's averaging 18 points and 11 rebounds a game, so he's averaging a double-double. So it's pretty crazy stats in what Janai's doing right now. But also they got Mark Sears for Alabama, who was the preseason SEC Player of the Year. He's got 18 points a game with 4 assists a game. So I would say 2 of the best players in the SEC are in the state of Alabama right now. So it keeps. I asked my dad over the weekend if there's ever been a top 5 Auburn-Alabama matchup in basketball. He said he didn't think so. So this could be the first one.
Yeah.
So
I don't track it like y'all do, but I think he's right. I don't think there has been.
Yeah. So it'd be very interesting. The iBob continues to look like it's going to be.
The iBob.
Everybody in the country will be watching that one. It looks like right now. So. We'll see how they do during their conference play. They could be either team could be coming in with like 2 or 3 losses. So we'll see.
All right, there's my fake buzzer for you. All right, resetting right now. Next 2 minutes, go.
All right. Well, NFL, the last week of the season is upon us this upcoming week, and as a Falcons fan, I will be sitting on the edge of my seat. In a bad way, because the Falcons need some help to get into the playoffs. Last week they had a chance if they beat the Commanders. There was a big coaching mistake in that game. Falcons coach didn't call a timeout when he needed to, but that's already happened. So now the Falcons need the Saints to win, and also they need to win to get into the playoffs. Falcons Saints big rivals, so it's hard for Falcons fans to pull for the Saints to win to get in. But that's what the Falcons need to happen in that case. The only other team, or local team, I would say people are probably fans of is the Titans, and the Titans have been out of it since week 2, I think. So the Titans will not be in the mix, unfortunately. But Atlanta, if the Saints can pull off a win, then and the Falcons also beat the Panthers, then the Falcons will be in. But also, there probably is Saints fans too listening that don't want that to happen. They want the Saints to win, and they're in, and they control their own destiny from here on out. I will say this though, for the Falcons' perspective, it looks like the Falcons probably got their next franchise quarterback, and Michael Penix, who played the game before this Commanders game as well. But he was lights out, and looks like Kirk Cousins may be bye-bye after this year. $180 million down the drain. They could have just stuck with Penix all along. Wow. So Penix looks like he's going to be the guy going forward, but they're going to need help. The Falcons are going to need help to get into the playoffs. I think that's really the only really deciding team to get in, like the team that's on the edge. I think all the rest are pretty much figured out. A lot of people will be watching the NFC South this weekend.
So Penix is the Cinderella story for quarterbacking right now, right?
Pretty much. He's the only reason the Falcons were even in that game against the Commanders. So,
there's your buzzer. All right, next 2 minutes, reset the clock, go.
Well, there's not much else going on in sports, but there was a big announcement from the state, and I know it was a big announcement for me too. Deontay Wilder, who is one of the greatest heavyweight boxers of all time from
Yep.
the state has retired. He announced his retirement this last
I met
weekend.
him not long ago.
Really,
Yeah.
he's a stud. Big in-state guy. I think he's got the highest percentage of KO wins. All but one of his wins are by knockout. He's got 43 knockouts. Some people will say that he's the biggest puncher ever in heavyweight boxing history. From the state, from Tuscaloosa. It's funny when I did MMA training, I was actually in the gym at the same time with his brother, who is actually a professional boxer too. So it's pretty cool that somebody like that is in the state, who's internationally known. But he had a couple of losses to end out his career, and he got knocked out really bad in his last fight. So he's hanging up the gloves. So he is done. But a big legacy. I think he finished like 43-3 or something as a heavyweight boxer. So that's pretty impressive. But
Wow. So is he gonna do anything? Own a gym? What's he gonna do?
I don't know. Probably sit on Lake Tuscaloosa with that mansion and kick back and chill out. I think his mansion's like $15 million. So I think he'll be living just fine.
The guy's built like a house too.
Yeah.
I mean, so I stand next to him. He was a head taller than me. It felt like.
Yeah.
And
I think he's 6'7", 6'8".
Yeah. I mean, what a reach that guy had.
Yeah. He had some people talk about how he had magic in his in his punch. He would be losing some fights, and then he would just have the great eraser of the knockout punch.
Great
and
eraser.
Everybody forgot how he got dominated. He knocked him out. So, but yeah, he announced his retirement. So, but like I said, it's great legacy, and it's crazy. He's from Tuscaloosa too. It's pretty cool.
That is very cool. All right, there's the buzzer. You got about 1 minute for the break. So what do you got?
Here comes the music right now, actually.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you slid in on that one. All right, JP on sports. Good job. Hey, listen, we're going to come right back, and we're going to talk about what just happened yesterday. Let's get back in the world of politics for a minute. Tarnished metals. Did you hear what Joe Biden did? 833-687-4448. That's the number, 833-68-RIGHT. Text it or call it. We'll be right back.
You're listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio, Phil Williams, here live in the Rightside studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national, covering down on all the issues. And, oh yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to live radio. Unlike a lot of other people in this state, some we know and sort of love, but they chose to take all kinds of days off. But we're live, JP, aren't we?
I know, we put the work in.
I know.
We earned everything.
Earned every bit of it. There's no participation trophies around here.
Nope.
I tell you what, I'm going to call an audible. So my second dipper is tarnished metals, and I'm going to get back to it, I think. But I want to jump on something that's fresh right now. So, all right. So I am not prone to what I would call conspiracy theoryism. All right. I'm not. But I also am a trust but verify guy, big time. And especially in recent years when I've seen some of the most heinous examples of government overreach, government attempting to shape the narrative, government suppressing views, government, calling for things like vaccine mandates, or you lose your civilian job even though they have no right to do that, just on and on and on. So that being said, am I a little bit jaded? Maybe a tad. Trust but verify. Several things have happened in the last 24 hours that I look at and go, what is with y'all? So my third dipper is called Now You Tell Us, but I'm going to take it. I'm going to stretch it out a little bit further. So two things. One is the Now You Tell Us piece was inspired by what just happened last night. The FBI releasing information about something that happened 4 years ago. And I look at it and go, now you tell us? Like, what's this about? I'll theorize that more in a minute. The other thing, though, I want to follow up on is FBI. What's going on with this Green Beret Master Sergeant who allegedly blew himself up in front of the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas driving a Tesla? And I'll be honest with you, none of it makes sense. And I had a pretty long, epic kind of post about all the reasons why this Special Forces, this Green Beret Master Sergeant named Matthew Livelsberger, none of it's adding up. And I'll tell you why in a minute, all right? Because there's some new developments on that just came out in the last few minutes. So let me do the FBI thing with first of all, with this pipe bomb. So you remember this January 6th. Oh, no, January 6th. Yes, I'm going there. January 6th. The infamous insurrection. That's what it was, right? Insurrection. Not really. But it was all the thing we heard about for the next 2 years. So, but if you remember the day before that, there were pipe bombs in Washington, D.C. that were placed near the headquarters of the Republican National Committee and the Democrat National Committee. The RNC and DNC headquarters both had pipe bombs. And we have never gotten any information about it. And you cannot tell me that in a city like Washington, D.C., that someone can walk up, place a pipe bomb right in front of a headquarters of that RNC or the DNC, and nobody knows nothing. Like it never gets out. Nobody claimed responsibility. Nobody ever posted about it. No surveillance video ever shows up until now. 4 years later. It turns out the FBI has had video footage of a person setting one of the bombs all this time. Why would you not put it out? Why are you just telling about it now? So, story here on the Daily Wire, Dateline yesterday. The FBI Washington field office released new information on Thursday about the suspect they say placed pipe bombs near the headquarters of the RNC and the DNC in Washington, D.C. on January 5th of 2021. Almost exactly 4 years later. The FBI released never-before-seen video from the incident and announced that they believe the suspect is approximately 5'7" tall. I saw the video. He was wearing a hoodie, never turned his face to the camera. David Sundberg, who is the assistant director in charge of the FBI Washington field office, he said this. He said, quote, "Over the past 4 years, a dedicated team of FBI agents, analysts, data analysts, yada, 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 have visited more than 1,200 residences and businesses, conducted more than 1,000 interviews, reviewed approximately 39,000 video files, assessed more than 600 tips about who placed the pipe bombs. Really? You've done all that, and 4 years later, you don't bother to say boo to the public about it until all of a sudden you realize the administration is about to change. And the director of the FBI, Christopher Wray, recently tendered his resignation. And you know that Kash Patel's coming in, and he plans on doing things like, opening up the files. And all of a sudden, we now have a video of the guy setting one of the bombs. I mean, this is nuts. Anyway, the one thing they do say is distinctive is he was wearing what they refer to as distinctive Nike Air Max Speed Turf shoes. You know what those are? Are those?
Yeah, they're just normal shoes.
Well, they say that only 25,000 pairs have ever been made. 25,000.
Interesting.
25,000 pairs.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot.
So 25,000 people could have been in the mix on this pipe bomb. But what they'll do, I guess, is take the sales of those shoes and begin to track them through, and then double check on social media, people who bought them, yada, yada, yada. They would have had to have had them in their hands, between August of 2018 and January of 2021. Listen, I look at this and think there's no good reason to have withheld. If you wanted this video to help the public help you get somebody, you did it a long time ago. 4 years later, please.
It's convenient timing, weird timing.
It's convenient timing, but it's also, to me, it's political timing.
Yep.
They're trying to get it out there so that they can't be accused of withholding it once Kash Patel takes office. Just
covering their tracks.
That's just messed up.
Yep.
We don't know who this guy is that laid the bomb, but we do know this. If he's willing to lay a bomb, then we need to catch him sooner than later. And you waited 4 freaking years now. Maybe it took him a month to get the video. I don't know, but you can look at it. Here's the thing: the video. Have you seen it?
Yeah, I saw it.
It was very close.
Mm-hmm.
So the guy, it's not like it's video that we didn't know existed from a camera no one knew was there from a long ways away. They've been enhancing it, trying to make it better. No, it's like a video from the building where the bomb was.
Like in a very good angle.
Yeah, like close, like within 40 feet. So if you get to the crime scene and you tape it off and you're looking around, you look up and there's the first camera you see, go get the video. And they've had it all this time. There's no way they didn't already have it.
Mm-mm.
Okay. I can't explain that except to say this is an obvious, to me, evidence of the FBI plays politics. And they didn't want to release something for some reason until they realized the jig was up and the new administration was coming in. And you might as well go ahead and say something about something because something's happening. Okay, there's that. But let's switch gears now. If that's the way they're going to treat an actual, pipe bomber, then how long is it going to take for us to get to the bottom of what happened with this Green Beret Master Sergeant in Las Vegas? So Matthew Livelsberger. Let me go back. I'm going to go back to the text or the tweet that I put up last night. Let's see if I can get there. Yeah. I'm going to read this to you. I did this last night just off the cuff. It's a little bit long, but here's the thing. I said it does not add up about Master Sergeant Matthew Livelsberger being a rogue domestic extremist. Let me tell you why. Number one, the man was an E8. He was a Master Sergeant on active duty. And to get to that point, he already had to have gone through multiple levels of leadership training. I mean, we're talking about everything from PLDC, ANOC, BNOC, all of it. He had to go through all these formal schoolings where he would have almost one-on-one evaluation by senior instructors. And you're telling me nobody noticed his rogue tendencies? He was also a career Special Forces NCO, a Green Beret. He served first as an SF Communications Sergeant, and he was recently selected to be an 18 Fox. That's a Special Forces Intelligence Sergeant. That's a senior level position that would have necessitated a very high level security clearance. I'm going to bet that he had at least a TS-SCI. And a TS-SCI probably read onto several SAPs. Those are secure access programs. This would have necessitated serious background checks, and nobody noticed rogue tendencies? Okay, here's some more things to think about. I mean, by all reports, this Matthew Livelsberger, the guy who allegedly shot himself and then blew up his Tesla in front of Trump Hotel in Las Vegas. By all reports, he was at roughly 19 years of service. That's 1 year away from his retirement. 1 year away from having his 20. But as an active duty soldier, at 18 years, he hit what's called sanctuary. That's the place where they can't get rid of you. In other words, there's probably nothing they could have really done to cause him to jeopardize his retirement because he was already past sanctuary. But felonious actions like car bombings, that would mean that he would lose any survivor benefits his family's going to be without. And what we do know from social media now is that he was married again for his second time just a few years ago and has a small child. He's a baby. So why would he sacrifice his family's well-being? All right, there's that. How about this? Matthew Leibelsberger. The Pentagon released his records. 5 Bronze Stars, one of which with a V for valor. A valor in combat. Multiple Army Commendation Medals, one of which had a V for valor in combat. Combat Infantryman's Badge, Special Forces tab. He was also not only Special Forces and Jump Master qualified, he was a military freefall specialist, Halo guy. So he could still go rogue after all that training, right? Yeah, but his record clearly indicates he was somebody who had more drive and more personal discipline than 99% of Americans. All right, then there's the fact that he had a high-level security clearance. You don't just get the clearance and then ride it forever. You get the clearance and you have to go through, every several years, you go through periodic reevals. They have to do reevals. And when they do reevals, you not only have to report and attest under oath to your background, your debt, your connections to foreign nations, all those things. I've done it, I can tell you. But then they actually send somebody around to interview you. And oh, by the way, they go and interview your friends and associates. So you're telling me that he made it through all of that with nobody noticing anything? There's more. I got to take a break right now. When I come back, I'll give you more things to think about him that make it really curious that this is who allegedly shot himself in front of Trump Hotel and then blew up his Tesla. More to come. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. We are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just pulling pins on truth grenades is what we're doing. So I'm doing this sort of breakdown of the really weird situation we have with the Special Forces Master Sergeant Matthew Livelsberger, who allegedly took his own life in the front seat of a Tesla truck, and then blew it up. And it blew up in front of the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas. And we're trying to figure out why. And oh, by the way, how many things don't add up about him being the kind of guy that would do this? There is no evidence. There's nothing that he was in any way involved in scandals, that he in some way had anti-government tendencies, that he was in any way a rogue. He did nothing like that. In fact, his family and friends have all come out and said he was actually really conservative. He was super excited about Trump getting elected, and this is not like him. Let me tell you a little more about him, all right? So I mentioned a minute ago that he was highly decorated for valor in combat. He had 5 Bronze Stars, one of which had a V for valor in combat, and then multiple Army Commendation Medals, one of which had a V for valor in combat. Multiple tours in Afghanistan. But he also carried this high-level security clearance, and then, oh, by the way, it also bears noting that being a Green Beret is not just about overcoming physical challenges and being good with weapons, because the assessment and selection to be an SF soldier requires some pretty serious and rigorous mental and emotional testing and evaluation. He made it through the most rigorous of psych evals, is what I'm trying to say. And they don't just leave it there. They have to maintain that. All right, here's the other thing. He's an active duty Master Sergeant. So as an active duty E8, he would have had a career that is filled with what are called NCOERs, non-commissioned officer evaluation reports. Those things happen at a minimum of annually, but they can even happen more often than that if you have a change of command or you have a change of duty station. And so you're coming and going, so you have to get the outgoing, NCOER, and then the incoming one gives you an NCO, counseling statement to tell you what your expectations are. So know what I'm trying to say is this. He is not an unevaluated individual. There has to be a record of what kind of troop he was, and there's no indication he was a bad troop. And then, how about this? There's the bomb itself. You got a guy who's a 19-year veteran of Special Forces. He enlisted in the mid-2000s as what's known as an 18 X-ray. That's an off the street, I went to the recruiter, I signed up to be Special Forces from day one. So they call it the SF Baby program. That means his entire career has been in Special Forces. Within that, he's going to have he's going to have a pretty serious amount of cross-training that's going to include the employment of explosives. He's going to have IED and counter IED training. He's going to have a basic EOD training. He's going to have cross-leveling with the 18 series engineers on his ODA. He's going to have more than enough knowledge to do better job than what he did on this IED that went off in his truck. Because by all rights, it was a somewhat amateurish explosion. Big enough to cause damage, yes. And the Tesla truck may have been stronger than the average car, yes. But a serious IED, and speaking as someone who's been next to a serious IED when it went off, I can just tell you, a serious IED is going to gut that thing like a fish. And it didn't. It's loaded with fireworks and gas cans. I mean, that's not big doings. All right, all said and done, it leaves a whole lot of questions. Well, more questions arose today. All right, I said all of that to talk about who he was. Let's talk about what just happened. So Sean Ryan, some of y'all know Sean Ryan. Sean Ryan has a really popular, he's a former special operator himself. He's got a really popular podcast. I may wind up having to do this after the break, but Sean Ryan just went live with a podcast today. Apparently, he got an email from this Master Sergeant Matthew Livelsberger just a day or so before the events happened. And it's very telling. A little bit like a manifesto. and it talks about things that are now being talked about on Sean Ryan's podcast. And Sean Ryan himself says, my family and I are going to disappear for a few days. Don't worry about us. This is getting weirder by the moment. I'll tell you more about it in a minute. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Covering down on some major ground across the northern half of the most beautiful state in the nation, Alabama, y'all, Alabama. And I mean, this show goes like, from the northern edge all the way down to Birmingham, from Tuscaloosa back over to Gadsden and parts of Georgia, Tennessee, and even Mississippi thrown in just for good measure. Oh, by the way, coming up here in about, how many days? 10 days.
10 days.
10 days. 10 days from now, we go live in Chattanooga, WGOW Chattanooga. We look forward to joining y'all. We're pretty stoked about it. And that'll put us into a range that covers not only our current audience, but also covering the little corner of Northeast Alabama we couldn't quite get to over in Scottsboro. And then up on yonder into Chattanooga, East Tennessee, and down into Northwest Georgia towards Rome and all that area. Oh, man, it's going to be awesome. So anyway, we're looking forward to it. All good. So we do have a change in the lineup, and I see Steve from Hoover.
Yeah, I don't think Steve got the message.
Apparently, we've been talking about it for weeks now, but yeah, Steve from Hoover just texted in 101.1 FM out of Birmingham. We just went through contract renegotiations with them and decided at the end of it all that we were best parting ways. So as of 2 days ago, we are off the air in a 101.1 in Birmingham, but you can still get us live. So if you have friends down yonder, tell them we're still looking at other options in that area, and we plan on bringing that one back, but not on 101.1. So yeah, they can find us online very easily, like in 1,000 different ways. So check it out. All right, I'm back on this thing about Matthew Livelsberger. So Master Sergeant Matthew Livelsberger, career Green Beret, most recently with 10th Special Forces Group. So the odd thing is, out of all the stuff we just talked about, with him and his career and the fact that everyone says he was a good dude, there was no indication of trouble. He was highly qualified. He was decorated for valor. He had 19 years of service. He was just about to his retirement. He had a new baby. All these things you look at and go, oh, this doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense at all. Well, Sean Ryan's podcast just released today the news that they just got an email from him right as he was heading into the moment, I guess you put it, as he allegedly shot himself with a Desert Eagle pistol. By the way, a Desert Eagle pistol is like carrying around a brick. I mean, nobody totes around a Desert Eagle for something like this. But anyway, bottom line is, they found a burned up Desert Eagle pistol and one other rifle, I believe, in the vehicle, along with his ID card, which didn't burn up apparently. So a guy named Sam Shoemate got an email from him just before the explosion, and it has a lot of weird stuff in it, but it's not rambling weird. It's not like the kind of weird like the Unabomber weird, where he's, speaking about rainbows and unicorns. It's not like that.
It's pretty specific.
It's very specific. In fact, at one point he says, "I'm not under duress or hostile influence or control, and my first car was a 2006 black Ford Mustang with a V6 for verification." In other words, what he's doing, he's putting duress code into it. He's giving clear indication that this is him writing it, allegedly. And yeah, and he also confirms his identity on some social media platforms, one on LinkedIn where he uses a different name, and one under his real name on another platform. But he talks about the fact that he's trying to get to a decision point, but he doesn't say what the decision point is. He's also trying to get to the Mexican border. And he says, "I'm sending this now." And he goes on to talk about the fact that he is being pursued, he says, by reps from the government because of his interactions with two things. One is the drones we've been seeing over the East Coast. Wow. And his own personal knowledge of having been involved in what he calls war crimes in Afghanistan. Not him per se being involved, but him being a member of a task force that was involved. Not war crimes on the ground, but war crimes in terms of targeting. And he talks about continued strikes after civilians were spotted, and a lot of civilians were killed, and he's very aware of it, and he wants to be a whistleblower. But he says there was a DEA agent involved, and he talks about several other people, and he names names. And he goes on to say that information needs to get out, and he wants it out. A couple of names were actually redacted because to put their names out there right now would be defamatory, not knowing any more than we do. But then he talks about the drones. Okay, and this is where it gets really bizarre. But he says that these drones that we're seeing right now over the East Coast areas are of Chinese origin. And he says that they are, what did he call them? Where'd it go? I just lost my place in the read. What do you call it?
This is gravitic propulsion systems.
Gravitic
propulsion systems, yes.
Basically, and you can look it up. I saw something else posted about it, that this is a pioneering system of basically anti-gravity type systems. Really? We're talking like UFO kind of stuff. He says China, this is a quote from the email. He says China has been launching them from the Atlantic from submarines for years, but the activity has recently picked up. He says, as of now, it's a show of force, and they're using it similar to how they use that balloon for signal intelligence and ISR, intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, which is also part of their integrated comms systems. He said there are dozens of those balloons in the air at any given time. He said the so what of this is because of the speed and the stealth of these unmanned aircraft. They are the most dangerous threat to national security that's ever existed. They basically have an unlimited payload capacity, and they can park themselves right over the White House if they want to. It's checkmate, he says. The U.S. government needs to give the history of this, but how we're employing it and weaponizing it, how China's employing it. He says that we and China are the only two that have this technology, but that China has been employing it over our coast. He said China is poised to attack anywhere in the East Coast. He said, I've been followed for over a week, and now likely from Homeland or FBI, and they're looking to move on me. Unlikely to let me cross into Mexico, but they won't because they know I'm armed and I have a massive VBIED. So this is, listen, I don't know. I don't know what I don't know. But he talks about the fact that he has DOD, DEA, and CIA contacts who are guilty of war crimes. And then he also talks about a program that he believes that he's fully aware of and as some knowledge of because he's UAS trained, unmanned aerial systems trained, that is a threat to the U.S. that they're not telling the public about. That's what's happening right now. Is that not the weirdest set? Are we in a Jason Bourne situation right now? That's what it feels like.
It's like Bizarro World.
It is Bizarro World. And do I 100% believe it? How can I? I don't know more than what I just told you. I don't know that you can look at this and go, well, that's real. At the same time, I don't know you can look at this and go, well, there's no way that's real. There's enough here about this man to where it has an air of credibility. This is not a wingding who sits in his underwear in mommy's basement and types out conspiracy theories and spends too much time on social media and, just surfing the internet. It's not that. This is a guy who I read you a street cred a while ago. This is a guy who you have, if you met him on the street, you'd say, what a dude. Everybody who served with him in uniform that we know of so far says solid as a rock. And yet now we have an alleged email from him talking about some really weird stuff. And he allegedly shot himself in the front seat of a rented Tesla and then blew it up in front of Trump Hotel. Why?
Yeah, I don't know why blowing up would be the solution.
And why would that be the solution? Yeah, some say it's because they were going to try and disappear him and he wasn't going to let it happen. Some
but then
say
he just disappeared himself,
So he disappeared himself. And then, you look at it and think, if you're going to disappear, if they're going to do something to you, at least it leaves benefits for your family, not when you've committed a felony. I'm pretty sure you lose your benefits. I think that's kind of tanked at this point. So I don't know, man. The whole thing is whacked. Okay, several text messages. Brian from Huntsville says, not under hostile control. He said, we're all tempted. I wish he had seen an Army chaplain. I do too. I do too. Matt from Madison says, hey, thanks for pointing out all these discrepancies that people think I'm nuts for seeing. There you go. Herb from Gurley said, did you say he shot himself and then detonated the bomb? He would have to have a dead man switch. Maybe the switch can be recovered and examined. It seems more likely he knew something, maybe the plan to kill people in New Orleans, and he was killed and blew up. Listen, I don't know about anything connection with New Orleans. There's a couple of odd threads. What we do know is that he and the terrorist in New Orleans both used the same app to get these cars. These were not normal rental cars; they were peer-to-peer ride share cars. You can basically pay money online through like a Venmo kind of situation, and go to a lockbox and get the key. Which, why does that work? But so both of these came through the same app. They also both served at Fort Bragg. But like you said yesterday, 57,000 people on Fort Bragg. What does that mean? They're not the kind of people that ran in the same circles. Gary from Decatur says the Muslim Dr. Nidal Hassan at Fort Bragg didn't cause any alarms either, or were they ignored? No, they were ignored. The FBI had Nidal Hassan on their radar, and there were a lot of people who were tired of Nidal Hassan, who, for political correctness reasons, didn't want to write him up or make trouble. They were scared of making waves, and people died because of it. Allie from Athens says, Colonel, your observations with regard to the so-called Tesla terrorists were absolutely superb. Thank you. I appreciate that, Allie. Said, I thank you for raising the questions and giving a point-by-point breakdown of all the fail-safes that had to have been in place for this man to have been serving the way he did. Something is indeed rotten in Denmark. Allie, thank you, my friend. Kimball from Harvest says, Phil, all these scandals, these pipe bombs, etc., are being kept under wraps by the deep state and all these unelected officials. As long as the current administration is in power, we absolutely won't have much information or accountability. Hopefully, the incoming administration can break some things loose, but it's going to take more time. They're currently doing damage control. I won't be surprised if there's more preemptive pardons at the last minute. I agree. I mean, right now, I'm watching as Joe Biden is giving medals of honor out. I mean, who gives out 7 medals of honor in one day?
I was gonna make a joke, but
He's
the last inflation tactic. He's inflating that medal right there.
Oh,
he's inflated the economy. He's inflating that.
Oh my God!
It has no value anymore.
No, well, yeah, and I'm sure there's some people that are worthy of receiving a medal that are standing there receiving it from the president, but it just definitely cheapens it. You're right. It definitely cheapens it when he gives out 7 in a day.
Yeah. And
he's reaching back. He's doing a lot of DEI type stuff where he's saying, well, let's see if we can find one. Who was the first Hispanic to, who was the first? And it's
handing them out like they're candy.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh. All right, listen, that was a whole lot of almost conspiracy theory, but it's not. There's a lot of real stuff out there that we now know, and yet there's so much more that we don't know. And I want to know when we're going to know. How about that? Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. Making common sense like a superpower. Hey, one quick thing before I go to the phones, I got to tell you, two things actually. One is I got a text from Monroe from Huntsville. I happen to know that Monroe from Huntsville is a former SF guy himself, Special Forces. He says a reason not to believe that email is real is it refers to a VBIED. He said, but an 18-year Special Forces trooper and a current ops sergeant would have been able to build a much better IED than the one that went off. I tend to agree, Monroe. It doesn't add up. It's one of those things that if you look at his resume, you go, I don't get it. And then the other thing I will tell you this is he was driving a Tesla. One of the things that happens with a Tesla is I think they have an in-cabin camera that's recording almost the entire time.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and so there was talk about the fact that he may have gotten that vehicle for that very reason, because it was high profile. And he says he was trying to stay high profile, and it would have. What you know right now is that apparently the Tesla company is sending somebody to help the FBI download the video recordings. Because there's going to be video. I know that Tesla has the front, rear, and side cameras, and then it also has interior cameras. I believe it's jam packed. All right, more to come on that. Hey, let me go to the phones. Is that Jeffro? Jeffro from Indiana. Hey, man, how you doing? Did we lose him? Jeffro, are you there? Did we just lose Jeff from Indiana?
He might be trying to call back. Hold on.
Okay. Well, if Jeff from Indiana's on there, we'll get him. I got a couple of text messages I'll grab real quick. David and Bucky's, he says, Phil, any concerns with the rules package being voted on by the House? I was just going to get into that, man, and I didn't get a chance to. But they are changing the rules somewhat, and it actually leans more in favor of Republicans. It shuts out the Democrats being able to have too much impact on votes. To remove the speaker, but it also means that the speaker can't be removed by one. If you remember, Matt Gaetz was the only one who had to say, I hereby move to remove the speaker. Now it goes back to a more traditional, you have to have 9 that come together and say they want to do it. JT Lacey Springs.
Jeff's back on, by the way.
Okay, good. JT Lacey Springs says 2025 has started off good since Rightside Radio is still on the air and growing. We have a great weekend. Thank you, JT. Appreciate you, man. And Marcus from Huntsville did say Tesla used to have an interior camera that was activated, but people didn't like it and they shut them off. He said, I heard they may have reactivated them for facial recognition to make sure you're paying attention to the road while using autopilot. I'm not sure if the Cybertruck had one installed or not, but it's highly likely. We'll find out. All right, he's back on the line. Jeff Rowe from Indiana. What you doing?
Happy New Year, ruffians.
Happy New Year to you, ruffian man from Indiana. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. If I can get past this weather we're going to have here in the next day or two, and supposedly come back down Monday night or Monday morning.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to get frosty, man. In fact, are you going to get any snow up there in your land?
They're calling for freezing rain and about 4 to 5 inches of snow. So.
Wow, 4 to 5 inches?
Well, that's nothing for us, but I mean. If it was in Alabama, I'd be stuck for a year.
Listen, 4 to 5 inches in Alabama, and there wouldn't be a loaf of bread or a gallon of milk left in a single grocery store, and every school will be shut down for a month.
Well, I just come from Walmart, and I couldn't hardly find a parking spot. So that's between the first of the month and the snow coming, you couldn't hardly get in the place.
No kidding. Wow. Well, hey, what do you think about this situation with the Tesla truck bomb in Las Vegas?
Yeah, that's just everything is awful weird about that. I mean, the fact that somebody can be in the service that long and stuff, and want to do that, do things like that to his self or fellow men, and everything, and so it just don't make any sense that people could have that kind of mindset.
Yeah.
But some of the things you've been saying, I wonder what this government's been doing and what it's been up to. There's a lot of things out there you think somebody's just crazy, and a lot of things that sound like they're crazy, but they're not. So,
well,
I wouldn't put anything past this government.
And you look at it and you think, if this guy was trying to make a statement, but he didn't say anything in this so-called manifesto about taking other people out with him, he could have blown himself up in an open field. and accomplish the idea of not being taken, if you know what I'm saying. But he went to the
Right.
Trump hotel and blew up. It just doesn't work, man. Hey, I got about 30 seconds, but give me any more thoughts you got.
Yeah, and it's a Tesla truck and everything. So it's Trump and Elon Musk. So that just was he affiliated with the Democrat Party? I wonder.
No, he was actually allegedly a Trump supporter. So no.
Makes no sense then, does it?
Makes no sense whatsoever. Hey, man, we got to go. You have a good, safe weekend, and we'll talk to you soon, all right?
Have a good one, Phil.
All right,
Thank
brother.
you.
We'll see you. All right. Hey, listen, you guys, listen, I'm serious when I say it. There are more of us than there are of them. God is still on his throne. Y'all stay in the fight. We will see you Monday.